Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Through the Storm, formerly known as the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Hey, I'm looking forward to our guest today. He's actually on the other side of the world. He is in Australia. But before I introduce Tim here, I just want to say thank you to Dave and Susan Kenny, who are with Emergo Academy. Thank you guys for sponsoring the show. Guys, if you're looking at wanting to become an international certified crisis and recovery coach, or even if you're not, I highly suggest you check out Emergo Academy. That's EMERGO Academy.com. Guys, you hear me say this every week. If it wasn't for the training that I took with these guys, I don't know where my life would have been in 2025, especially after losing a leg, losing my wife. You know, it just the training really taught me how to sit with my feelings and my emotions and learn how to understand things and learn how to look at the message in the mirror, which I bring up a lot in the show, and looking at the lessons of life that it teaches us every single day. So I highly suggest you guys should just check out their website, see if it's something that introduce or interests you guys. And again, thank you, Dave and Susan Kenny, for all your love and support. I greatly appreciate you guys and love you guys to death. Hey, today's topic is being human, and we're going to be discussing that with my new friend, the Aussie the Aussie. We'll just leave it at that. Being human, Mr. Tim Thomas. Thank you, Tim, for being with us. Greatly appreciate it.
Al, so great to be here.
Yeah. We had a good little chat before we started recording, but you've got a hell of a history, buddy. I mean, gosh, I was going through your bio. You were with the special forces, and talking about dealing with PTSD, addiction. A lot of us who are not able or haven't served in the military, there's a lot of things you guys see that we have no clue, right? I just can't imagine what life is like coming back to and acclimate yourself back into, I don't like using the word normal because I don't think there is such thing as a normal. However, just get yourself back into society when you're somewhere else and you're with basically a band of brothers, right? That is your family.
Al, you said a mouthful there, and I'll put it really simply because I've been working with a lot of research facilities for over a decade, translating academia into veteran talk. And what we found, what the research points to, is it's not so much the extreme things that you do and see, it's the way of doing and way of being, the regimentation. Now, people give regimentation a bad rap, but on a good day, you get 100 people working as one. That's a good day, fully connected. That's what the good regimentation does. But then when you have that headspace of how you work in that sort of environment, and that works well there, you go outside into the civilian world where people are just doing their own thing, and there's nothing wrong with that, but we see it as wrong. That person's being selfish by parking their shopping trolley in the middle of the aisle and not letting anyone through. And it's the sense of isolation that creates.
Mm.
And isolation triggers what? Your amygdala, your fight or flight. And all you're seeing is problems, and all you can do is fight, and you're exhausted and you're not sleeping, because if I drop my guard for a second, that means something bad's going to happen on my watch. So because I went through this space and I started coming out of it, I realized there's a lot of other veterans in that space. I thought, well, what can I do to help? And being dyslexic, I see things in patterns, and I thought, well, in war, if we wanted to destroy the enemy, we would attack their sleep. You know, we didn't know about the science of sleep. We just knew if we could take it out for 3 days, Al, it would fuck them up better than a bullet. So conversely, these days I say, if you care about somebody, you care about their sleep.
Mm.
And sleep is poor sleep is so culturally accepted. And I'll highlight it by asking you a question, Al, if I may. You've
Sure.
got people you care about. And if I asked you, when's the last time you did something nice for someone you cared about, you would go, oh, I just did this the other day, right? Because that's what we do, right? So I'm going to put you on the spot here. Al, when was the last time you did something for someone you cared about that helped them sleep better?
I would not have an answer for you on that one, Tim, in all honesty. Right.
All
Hmm.
right. I mean, we do so many good things for people we care about, but because sleep is just poor sleep is so commonly accepted, it's not even on our radar. It's a complete blind spot. And all I did as a dyslexic is see that blind spot and then thought the measure of success. So for the past decade, I've created some of Australia's most successful veteran recovery programs because the main measure of success was a very measurable metric, and that was sleep quality. And we noticed that once we improved sleep, all these downstream problems got solved on their own. And this is where people like myself can lose years of their life. And this is not just veterans, this is everybody. Veterans just highlight it. There's all these downstream problems of poor quality sleep that you can lose years of your life trying to fix. Whereas if you just go upstream, solve the source, get rested and connected, it's amazing how much can be done with very little resources.
Hmm.
I was sort of known as the guy with 20 cents and a toothpick could do more than what someone could do with millions of dollars misspent. Because and this is where people get it wrong. You can spend millions and billions of dollars in mental health, but if that person's not sleeping properly, if that person's feeling all alone and isolated, and FYI, that's what pain does ultimately. It's not the physical or emotional pain that's the problem. It's the isolation it transforms into without us knowing it. Okay, because when I'm all alone and no one's got my back, then everything's a threat because everything is a threat, and going to sleep is an act of dropping your guard, and I can't do that. So this is where it's this invisible thing that's not on the spreadsheet that nobody sees that creates all these visible problems. And the pharmaceutical companies go, great, we can sell you all these pills to fix all these visible problems. And so all I did was, firstly, I experienced the shit fight that is it myself. And then I'm like, well, how do I stop other people doing it? And the first thing we had to do was not something that, again, was on the spreadsheet. First thing we had to do was break the isolation. And this is where lived experience becomes really powerful. And this is, I want people to, and this, if this is burning in your chest right now, there's a reason for it, because everyone listening to this is up against something. It could be a business thing, it could be a relationship thing. The space I came to this awareness was the veteran space. Whatever you're up against, that is actually the most valuable thing you have. Because if you can go through that, you're now qualified to break the isolation that other people are feeling that are in the same situation. So ask yourself, whatever you're up against, give it a name, physical, mental, emotional, and ask this golden question: how many other people do you think are in the same situation? And these are real people. They're alive right now. And don't just say a lot, give it a number. Give it a real number. And if I was to answer that when I was going through a medical system that didn't seem to want to make me healthy, I'm thinking there's conservatively at least 4 million other people. All right.
Hmm.
And you put whatever number you've come to, could be 10, could be 20, put half of it on your left, half of it on your right. And those people are looking in, and the pain they're in because you're feeling it. And they're probably saying something like, hey, Al, if you can make a way forward for you, you can make a way forward for us. And that breaks that isolation that you're currently feeling you're in. Because it can be very difficult when you're up against something that seems overwhelming. Making that first inch of progress, it can be very hard. It can take a month, a year, a decade. But consider when you make that inch, it's not 1 inch anymore. For me, it was 4 million inches. And that context, that once you understand, once you ask that golden question of how many other people are up against what I'm up against, and if I can make a way forward for me, I can make a way forward for them. Whew, And so when I breathe these days, and I'm trying to breathe through a situation, I'm not just breathing for me, I'm breathing for all those other people.
Hmm. I love that. Isn't it crazy? when we are going through something, whatever it may be, that we do feel like we are the only person that's going through it, right? And I learned a valuable lesson years ago. My late wife battled with addiction, and I hid it from family, I hid it from friends for a long time, and people that knew me very well, they started noticing I was changing, and I didn't realize I was changing. And finally, one of my buddies sat down and we went out for coffee, and he's like, "Okay, what the hell is going on?" And I just kind of ho hummed, and he's like, "Come on, be upfront with me. What the hell is going on?" And I told him, and he's like, "Al, you need to start sharing this." And I'm like, "Nah, I don't want anybody to, have this pity party for me." And he goes, "Al, you think you're the only one going through it?" He goes, "There are millions of other people that are going through it too." And he goes, "Your story may just," I got God bumps over here on this side because he says, "Your story may just help someone else." That's what opened all this up, Tim. I mean, so you've hit it. You hit the nail right on the head.
Well, I think what we're hitting on here is universal truth. So it doesn't matter if you're in Australia, Utah, wherever, there's a certain universal wiring that I believe pain helps you discover.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not meant to go through this world alone. And let me just put it to you, Al, when these things were going on in your life that you couldn't talk about, those unspoken words became like rocks around your heart. And when you hear another person speaking those words that you couldn't speak, so when you give voice to the situation you are in, and then the words that, and men tend to do this, a man needs to hear another man who he respects say the words that he wish he could say, and then those rocks dissolve. And then in that moment, that's when the isolation is broken. The very first thing that needs to happen, isn't freaking medication or whatever. It's breaking that isolation, breaking those rocks around the heart. And then you get a chance to actually connect to the thing that you're supposed to connect to, as opposed to having each day as a fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, once you do break those rocks away from the heart, it opens so much up. I mean, that's what I found because people started coming up to me at networking groups going, "Hey, can I talk to you in private for a minute?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So we'd go off and into a hall or into a room, and they're like, "Hey, I don't know if you knew this, but um, this is what's going on in my family," or "I used to be a heroin addict," or what. And it started happening everywhere. I mean, even in grocery stores, right? I'd be in an aisle in a grocery store and just say hi to someone, and all of a sudden they're opening up, and I'm just going, "What the hell just happened here?" Is that what you found as well by doing all this?
Well, what you're discovering there is we are wired for connection. If Al, you knew I had your back 100 freaking percent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you had my back the same, we're having a good day. Bad times coming in, bring it freaking on. We're connected. We freaking got this. All right?
Yep.
But let's flip this for a second. Okay, this is what pain, doesn't matter if it's emotional or physical, this is the ultimate goal of pain, is to make you feel alone, isolated. No one understands me. I can't talk about this. No one's got my back. And so if you push that to extremes, this is where people who heard you talk could not want to engage, because we're all wired for connection. And there's things that we can do that remove the blockages, and there's things that we can do to enhance connection. So I've noticed that us humans, we tend to hang on to blockages and almost call them an identity, especially us blokes, because we pride ourselves on how much shit we can handle without flinching. And there is a time and a place to muscle up and get the job done. This country is made great by that. There is a time and a place to be hyper vigilant so you can scan and get shit done and right? But if we are not giving ourselves permission to switch out of that hyper focus, feel safe, feel connected back into our body, let people around us feel that softer side, be gentle, okay? And this is what I tell guys, don't take the armor off. First, work on being gentle. because taking the armor off can be a bit of a leap, because people think once the armor's off, something bad's going to happen, and that's not happening on my watch. It's almost like a survival thing. So my word to men is, don't worry about the armor, just work on being gentle and work on seeing something beautiful. Because when you're fully locked into, your own pain, your own, and you don't even know you're doing it, life occurs in two different colors: safe, not safe. Go towards it, go away from it. And again, we don't know we're doing it. This is just this survival mode. So when someone comes along and goes, hey, I was in this position and this is what life was like, crack. All right. And this is where it gets a little bit exciting. So consider, everyone listening right now, and what you're up against, whatever that is. You are now the one person qualified to do the most important thing for all those other people in the same situation. You are qualified to break their isolation. And guess what? You probably aren't going to say anything they haven't heard before, but because you've gone through that, you can shift those words from their head deep into their heart and dissolve those rocks. So you need to understand, it's not what we do so much that makes us valuable to others. It's what we've gone through.
Mhm. I love that. That's a good way of putting that. Yeah. It when you're saying all this, it just reminds me of like the rebranding of the show, that Through the Storm, just going straight through it. And you mentioned it quite a few times about just going towards it, even if it's that inch, right? Which could end up being, 4 million miles, even if it is an inch. As long as we're not going back, we're still going forward, we're making progress.
Well, I've always thought that people we haven't met yet are going to be so glad that we chose what we chose before we met them. Because those people are going to say, without saying these words exactly, they're going to say, we're so glad that you made that inch of progress over 10 years, because you've now helped us to make that inch of progress in one conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm a guy that's got like 6 pages of weapons I'm qualified in, but the most powerful thing I've owned isn't a weapon, it's a conversation. Authentic conversation. That stuff can tilt the axis of the planet, because people just get back into alignment. Because essentially, we all know what our alignment is supposed to be, but we also allow ourselves to sort of carry these blockages, and if we carry them from enough, we tend to think if we put them down, it would be an insult to the 20 years we've carried them for, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like throwing rocks in a backpack, right? We just keep collecting them and
Goddamn right.
keep collecting them, and it gets heavier and heavier and heavier. Yeah.
So wouldn't it be good to have a natural practice that you could immediately empty your backpack, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
You know where I'm going with this.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you're going there because, you know, what got you to that point, Tim, to go, I've had enough. I'm done feeling the way that I'm doing, or done feeling the way that I'm feeling. Something has to freaking change.
All
And
right.
what
Yeah.
clicked in you to finally start moving in a different direction?
So during COVID, I had a divorce. Lost house, home, all my money, regular access to kids. I walked away with an old beat up car and my dog. Okay. And I'm sleeping on the couch of my parents' place. And you can bet at 2 a.m., this thing wasn't shutting down. And in that moment, I discovered two things. Firstly, our own resistance to doing the things that help us, but also the power of breath work. So 2 a.m. on my parents' couch, all this shit in my head. And the way I describe it is your mind's like a garden, whatever your water grows. And I was doing a really good job of watering the stress weeds. And those stress weeds are taking over the garden, And you feed those little fuckers enough, and they start growing eyeballs. They become sentient. They become aware of what you do that feeds them, and what you do that might feed something else. And they're quite guarded on. They don't want anything you do to feed anything else in the garden because they own the place now, right? So there I was, stressed as hell, not sleeping, and the stress weeds were loving it. And the irony was, I was a breathwork coach. I knew that breathwork would bring me peace, but you think I could breathe when I most needed? Absolutely freaking not. These stress weeds had my system locked in, and they were loving it. And I got up, I was going to do self-harm, drugs, alcohol, maybe all three. And then I looked at my left thumb, and I said, Tim, you can take one breath. Take one fucking breath. And I drove it into my chest and went, and it was like a breath coming up from the deepest ocean. I'm like, shit, this is working. Take two. I grabbed a second finger, drove it into my chest. Okay, that's good. Get to 5. And then finger after finger. Get to 5. Get to 10. Breath after breath. Somewhere between breath 15 and breath 25, those stress weeds got kicked out. The rest of my brain came online. And it said, Tim, thank fuck you kicked those stress weeds out. This is working. Don't stop. So I simultaneously realized, A, the power of my own mind to stop me doing what is good, and B, the power of breath. And the fact that it needed to be coached in some way. I wouldn't do it naturally, even though it was actually really powerful. So I started making these stupid ass recordings of, hey, Tim, breathe in, breathe out. And they just kept working. And like they say in the army, if it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid, right? Mm-hmm. And I started sending it to my friends, and it just, guys would say, yeah, this breath turns my bed into a cloud. And as someone with a lot of chronic injuries, breath work is anti-inflammatory as well. And so I thought, well, going to sleep with breath is good. How about we double down and wake up with breath as well? And so I created a breathwork technique that helped sort of turn your bed into a bit of a trampoline. So your feet kicked over the edge in a very different state. So that low point was the point where I bounced, and angle of projection is angle of reflection. With the shit that I came in with, it turned into fertilizer on the way out. And I realized that this shit was actually there to help everything grow. And not just me, other people. There comes a point as you're growing, it makes sense to connect and be generous with other people. And I thought, well, I've got to create something that people can access easily and effortlessly, because people don't need 6 things to remember going to sleep. They're busy enough. I wanted to create like an Uber Eats scenario where you just tap a button and then it gets fed into your, while you're in bed. So that's breathwork in bed is my attempt at having people get access when they most need it, and yet they often don't want to remember too much more. It's just a sort of a tap button. Oh, breathe in, breathe out. And before you know it, you're like, oh, wow, now I know what that crazy Aussie was talking about.
Yeah. And it's crazy with you saying this. I mean, really, it is all that simple, right? I mean, because someone who has done breath work, and I've got some beautiful lady friends who do breathwork classes. Matter of fact, I told you before we started recording that I'm going to one tonight, which is crazy, but it helps so much, because since I have learned more about breathwork, matter of fact, my good buddy, who I think is from New Zealand, but he lives in Texas, Dr. Rob Kelly, you might want to check him out. He just started something called the Breath Box, and they're using the breathing techniques, certain levels of breathing techniques with subliminal messaging with headphones, and they are seeing huge success. And again, it's not really the subliminal messaging, it's the breathing that is actually making everything work. And I have found that it has really helped me a lot too, especially last year, even though I had my training, and I mentioned that at the beginning of the show, but losing a leg, losing losing someone that you spent 19 years of your life with 4 weeks later, you know, there was a lot of times I felt, sitting in my bed feeling sorry for myself, waking up every morning and crying, looking down and seeing a part of me gone, but with the training and also doing some breath stuff at that time helped me get everything back in line again. I was working out in my hospital bed. I had my physical therapist bring couple 10-pound dumbbells up to my bedroom. And as soon as I went through all my emotions and everything and got myself calibrated again, I'd reach down and grab those weights and I'd just sit and do curls in my bed just to help align myself back to where I wanted to be again. So breath work definitely pays off.
And I could speak for an hour on the science of it, but consider this. Every element has a nature to it, okay? And the nature of air is you can't hold it, can't be held, right? And when we breathe it in, there comes a certain point where we embody the nature of air. It doesn't allow us to hold on to any physical tension. It doesn't allow us to hold on to any mental tension. And then we can do the thing that us humans are built for, and that is connect.
Mm.
And often it's connecting to that internal compass that is inside all of us, but we tend to cover it in shit, right? So when we breathe to a certain point, that inner compass can spin free and people naturally know what they're supposed to do next.
Yeah.
And, you mentioned the breath work you're going to do tonight is a form called holotropic breath work. And that's like pretty high level stuff. And I would recommend people working up to that. Okay. But quite useful nonetheless. Like if you want to have a get high in your own supply experience, that's a good one. But the idea and the reason why I've used it so much in the veteran space is, and the reason I'm so confident, not just because of my own experience, but because if you think of us humans evolving, right? Before we were speaking, before we were sentient, putting paintings on rock walls, we were breathing. This deep ancient wiring actually outranks your overthinking mind. And the way I kind of see it is, if you look at your lungs, they look like tree branches, right? To me, breath work is your way back to the Garden of Eden.
Mm.
Before we started thinking too much and getting in the way of it, right?
Right. You know, and with you saying that, we talked a little bit before we started recording, but I watched a documentary about those people that go on deep dives with no
Ah,
oxygen
yeah.
tank and things like that, right?
Free divers.
Free divers, yeah, free divers.
Yeah.
Thank you. And you watch them, and they're doing all this before they get ready to go on this dive. At first, I didn't quite understand what they were doing until I started taking breath work, and I realized, oh my gosh, they're just filling their lungs full of oxygen, is what they're doing. And I mean, some of these free divers, they go down a long, long ways. I mean, I just couldn't imagine being underwater even 50 feet down, holding my breath and hoping I could still hold it 50 feet back up. So how does that breath work? How do I put this? How do our lungs store that much oxygen to where these divers can go that flipping deep? And you
Okay.
just when you watch them, they're just floating around like it's freaking nothing. No panic or nothing.
Okay, so what we're talking about there is actually an even deeper state of human evolution. So let's go back to a time when potentially our ancestors were not on land.
Mm.
And they developed what was called the mammalian dive reflex. We're mammals. Dolphins are mammals. Whales are mammals. We have the same reactions to going underwater as whales and dolphins. And here's one way, and this is a human superpower most people don't know they have, but if you can access it, you are ahead of the game. So for the past decade, I've been using our human mammalian dive reflex to help treat symptoms of PTSD in veterans. Now, how does that work? Right? Between everyone's eyebrows, there's this little starfish-shaped gland that lets your body know when you're underwater or not. And once that is submerged underwater, a set of automatic reactions take place in your body. You don't have to think about it, it's automatic, right? The signal goes, okay, we're underwater in survival mode. Let's pull all the blood from the outside extremities into the core. And your heart rate slows down. You'll hear it go douche, 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 and then douche, douche. So when these people are underwater, their system has changed. We're underwater, we're in survival mode, and that's not the only thing that happens. Your brain, and this is where this is where I found it quite effective treatment for veterans with PTSD, is your brain gets a signal saying, hey, we're underwater. To survive this, we don't need stress to live. So it literally changes the way the brain circulates blood. It literally kind of lobotomizes the part of your brain that's dedicated to stress and overthinking. Isn't that interesting? Our deep ancient wiring knows we don't need this stress to survive.
Wow.
Okay?
Huh.
And so when you're actually underwater and all these things are taking place, because you have to understand it's not the lack of oxygen that creates the urge to breathe. It's the buildup of CO2. Okay? Your body creates energy, it creates waste, CO2. And your brain creates a lot of energy and it creates a lot of waste. So it makes a lot of sense to shut off the part of your brain that is creating a lot of CO2 for you to survive that, survival situation underwater for longer. Okay, so it's the mechanical shut off. So many veterans have said to me, Tim, I don't know what happened, but that was the first time all the noise stopped. Okay, and you also have to, your body creates this cocktail of chemicals as well. So remember how I said it's the buildup of CO2 that creates the urge to breathe? Our body creates all these antioxidant chemicals that soak up the CO2 and help absorb them. So you know how when you get fit, you create more hemoglobin and you can run faster? Well, this is kind of the same ability, but in reverse. You're now soaking up the CO2. So there's this cocktail of superpowers that happen once we're underwater, and you don't need to jump in a pool to trigger this. My favorite thing, and with all my guys, is get a bowl of water. Everyone in their house has a bowl of water. If you're listening to this and you take this away, you're going to be ahead of the game. Some bowl of water, and have a jug of fridge water, like a couple of liters of fridge water in the fridge. Tip that into the bowl. Take a few breaths, stick your face in there, mush your face up a bit and put it in there. All you have to do is submerge this part of your face, and it'll feel quite intense because there's a lot of nerve endings in your face. But get used to sort of being in that space. It is intense, but you're not thinking about anything else. Your heart rate sometimes cuts in half. I'll go from, say, 80 beats per minute to 40.
Wow.
These are the things that automatically take place once your face is in cold water. Okay? I mean, being in the ocean, being in the water is good, but you've got to take your clothes off, you've got to towel off afterwards. So as much as, outside this door here, I've got an ice bath. On top of the ice bath is a bowl, and I'll just scoop up cold water in the morning. And my morning, instead of having a coffee, I'll put my face in cold water. When I feel the urge to breathe, I'll just let out bubbles. I'll take a few more breaths, stick my face in there, and that activates all my systems. And if you want to talk about heart health, heart rate variability, gets massively benefited by triggering this mammalian dive reflex.
Holy
So you can
cow.
go and spend hundreds, thousands of dollars on, medicine for your heart. And I'm not against pills here, but I'm just saying this is another layer for heart health, amongst other things.
Wow. That is some really interesting stuff. You just taught me some really cool stuff. Now while you're talking about it, I'm thinking, do I got a bowl big enough to stick my face in the morning to give that a
Well,
shot?
I'd be buying one, but even easier, get a goddamn ice cube, stick it to your forehead, and then just breathe in and out. You're combining two elements there, elements of water and breath, and let that little thing take you on a journey. It'll feel quite intense. The intensity will come up, but then it'll peak and trough, and then you're on the other side of it. Just keep breathing into it, because the thing about the ice is it's a tension seeking uh, element. If there's any tension in your body, the only time you'll feel uncomfortable is if you've got tension. So breathe in, let it go, let it in, let it go, relax, 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 and then you'll just sort of pop through to the other side. So even if you don't have a bowl, just an ice cube. I mean, could it be so simple putting an ice cube between your eyeballs, taking some breaths to actually get that deep tissue regulation? So that's just something, if people are listening, my goal is permanent access to change, positive change,
Hmm.
and that's what I'm committed to. So if everyone forgot everything we said and they remember the ice cube, they remember the face in cold water, that is something that's going to be enabling them to have access to something powerful and resultantly bring their gifts into the world even better.
Wow. I got to ask you this question. So next weekend, I'm doing a 16-mile bike race. It's going to
Nice.
be my very first one. As you're saying this with the ice cube, I'm picturing, would it be worth having an ice cube with me before I start the race and do that and do some breath work before I end up going on this, just to kind of help get my mind and my body straight, my body right? Would it be a
Wouldn't be
benefit?
hard. Wouldn't be hard to, when you're riding your bike, everyone's got water bottles. Fill that sucker up with a few ice cubes, and then put it there. Focus yourself, center yourself, and then when you're out riding, squirt some on your face so that gets the cold air on it. That'll send a signal to your system. You know, we're okay. Keep breathing, and I'd be breathing through your nose as much as possible. And if
Right.
you if you're, I can see you're a technical guy, Al. I'll tell you something about this nose that nobody knows, and that is Chinese for thousands of years have called this Heaven's Gate. Modern science has caught up to the fact that different nostrils activate different nervous systems. So your parasympathetic nervous system is accessed when you breathe through your left nostril. So if you want to go to sleep right thumb, right nostril, breathe through your left nose.
Hmm.
And if you want to live in the top 3%, you got to breathe into the top 3% and the bottom 3%. That's all you got to focus on with your breath. Top 3%, bottom 3%. All right? And then if you want to, and that's your parasympathetic nervous system. But then getting out of bed in the morning, your right nostril activates your sympathetic nervous system. Get up, go hunting, right? All right. So this is where we can literally self-medicate with knowledge of our own bodies. And our ignorance gets exploited. If we don't know how to do this for ourselves, and we are the only ones that can do this for ourselves, then you'll end up like me, addicted to pills when you could be accessing far more regulated activities, like how your body responds to elements.
Wow. Man, you are teaching some stuff that I've not ever heard of. And like I said, I've been doing some breath work for a while, but none of that has ever really been brought up. I guess basically because it's a class and we're all getting ready to do it, do the breath work. But yeah,
Oh, my man, you don't hear about this stuff because it's free. I call it the economy of dysfunction. All right. Certain parts of the economy make more money when we're ignorant of our own body and we're dysfunctional.
yeah, yeah,
On a good day, shut up until I've had a coffee. On a bad day, fuck you, I'm going to have a beer.
right.
All right. And I got no problem with anything on this planet. It's all there for the benefit of us, but I want to own it. It's not going to own me. If I start looking for something outside of myself that I could otherwise do inside of myself, then I'm giving my power away. So that's why I've, you know, dove so deeply into what our bodies can do, because you and everyone listening right now, we all own bodies, but it's amazing how much we don't know about them, and it's amazing how much that ignorance is getting exploited currently. So if you can, and once you get access to all this good stuff underneath your own skin, a lot of stuff gets made redundant outside of yourself. You don't need to buy as much shit you don't need. Or the way I explain it to people is, you don't have a set of lungs. You got a medicine cabinet with a lot of different shelves. You breathe a certain way, you could elicit a certain response. And if you want to take this to the next level, you're not just breathing for you. You're breathing for people around you. Okay? And what am I talking about when I say that? If I go into a group of people and I start going, how's that going to impact them? Right? But if I'm around people and they can see me going, we are always communicating to each other with our breath. It's how we connect, and we don't even know we're doing it. If you can become present to the fact that how you're breathing affects others, when I'm in a space, I'll breathe for other people. I'll see a room and I'll breathe into that person, and guess what? Just like if I was a pissed off person, I'm looking at that person like they're pissing me off, and they become that person. With my breath, I can help that person become what they're supposed to be, what they're supposed to be giving.
I love that.
So this is the, once you see how much power you own over here, there's no longer any time lost getting exploited, thinking someone else can do it for you.
Yeah. Man, this is some powerful stuff. And again, I wish we had more time because I know you've got a previous engagement too.
Yeah,
That
I got to punch out, but I'm happy to do a part two. This feels right. I feel like we could definitely do a part two on this one.
yeah, I'll have to reach back out to you so we can go a little bit deeper in this because I'd like to learn a little bit more myself. You know, I'm always looking for ways that, I mean, I just hit 63 this year and you know, I do my best to stay in the best shape that I possibly can in that. And I've also learned through my training that this doesn't control us, we control it, you know, and which a lot of us don't understand that because we can control it. But to have something like breathing, which is what we do every single day, 24 hours, 7 days a week, right? It's just natural. But when we learn how to do it in a way that's going to benefit us even more, I mean, I definitely want to get that word out there so more of my listeners can hopefully start practicing a lot of this stuff. So, you know, do you got something you want to say before I ask you, how do people find you? How can they learn a lot more about this stuff?
Well, the image that came to me was this. You know, imagine you've got a treasure chest filled with millions of dollars, like right in your bedroom, and yet we're going out there chasing dollars and pennies. Okay, this is the transition that happens once you discover all this good stuff, that all this dumb shit I've been chasing is actually here, you know, and I can access it, and life becomes a whole lot easier once you've tapped into the source as opposed to, you know, chasing it elsewhere. Yeah, that was the image I had. But yeah, sorry, Al, you asked me a question there.
Well, no, I was just saying, so how do people find you? You know, because and again, I don't want to keep you from we've got probably about 7 more minutes left. And
Okay,
how do people find you?
so
I got all your links. I want to make sure I'm going to put all your links on the comments, but
sure, I'm going to be speaking in San Antonio between October 12th to the 17th with the veteran group Coming Home Well. So I'll be in the States at that time. If someone wants to reach out to me on LinkedIn and get me into your location, happy to help out. If someone wants a good night's sleep tonight, simply get your phone out, look up breathwork, one word, in bed. Once you download it, all you got to do is tell it when you want to sleep. when you want to wake up, and then we take care of the rest.
I love that. You know, I think I ought to do an introduction with you and Dr. Rob Kelly. I think you two guys would just hit it off, and especially with him looking at new, because he uses a lot of the breath work for addiction and recovery. So I think you two guys would hit it off really, really well. You know, if you're comfortable with it, Tim, shoot me an email with your phone number on it, and I'll do an introduction text to you and Dr. Rob Kelly. He's a good friend of mine. He's actually coming up to speak at our Healing Utah Success Summit in October. So I'll connect you guys and let you guys have a chat. And I think there's something you two could even probably collaborate with and do some good things.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. Well, Tim, thank you so much for reaching out to me and asking to be on the show. I know when you first did, I was reading through your stuff and I'm like, oh hell yeah, I want to have this guy on my show for sure. And I'll reach out to you again. We'll get another show scheduled here in another month or two, and go a little further in depth with this breath work. So again, thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we sign off here?
Could life be as simple as knowing that if you can control your breath, you can control everything?
Mm, that's pretty
Consider the
powerful right
possibility.
there.
Consider that as a possibility.
Wow. All right. Well, Tim, thank you. I wish we had more time, but we will get back on. Hey, I just want to say thank you again to everyone. I want to say thank you to Dave and Susan Kenny with Emergo Academy. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, guys. Check them out. EMERGO Academy.com. Also want to say thank you to all our past guests and our future guests who are going to be coming on the show. Thank you for reaching out and wanting to be a part of this platform. Also want to say thank you to all our listeners. Guys, we've been doing this for a little over 5 years. It's because of you is why I keep doing this. And it's also because of the guests and what they share and their knowledge. And it's really helped my life. This is like my therapy time, even just having guests on the show, because I get to learn so much. Also, guys, we're going to leave you with this. Before we leave you, mark your calendars, October 3rd at the Miller Free Enterprise Building in Sandy, Utah. We're going to be holding our 6th Healing Utah Success Summit. You heard me talk about Dr. Rob. He's going to be coming up for one of our speakers. We got Dr. Sarah Nussar from California who's going to be coming up and speaking. We've got some local speakers that are coming. Come on out, be inspired. This year's title is Hope and Inspiration, Truth and Transformation. We've got a good lineup for you guys. We're going to leave you with this. Guys, remember, the storm isn't here to stop you. It's here to reveal you. Don't run from it. Walk through it. Because on the other side isn't just survival. It's the person you were always meant to become. Until next time, keep walking through the storm.